Hi, everybody. My name is Brandon Klugman. I lead the Vote 16 USA initiative, which is a project of the nonprofit Generation Citizen dedicated to supporting youth-led campaigns to lower the voting age to 16 on the city and state level across the country, and to promoting the idea of lowering the voting age to 16 on a national level. Really excited to bring you a conversation today with 4 young people leading the movement to lower the voting age to 16. And I will let them introduce themselves, starting with Catie.
Yeah, okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Catie Macauley. I'm a high school junior from Portland, Oregon, and I'm involved in Vote 16 through being on the Youth Advisory Board, and I'm also the co-lead of the Portland chapter of Vote 16, which we're currently working on the city level, but we're also hoping to expand our chapter to be Oregon Vote 16. And other causes that I advocate for. I'm involved in an organization called REP by the organization Next Step, which works to center marginalized voices in conversations around gun reform. I am the co-lead of policy for Portland Youth Climate Strike, and I also work on mental health with the Oregon Youth Line.
I'm Caleb DeBerry. I am from Chicago, Illinois. I'm a high school junior. I serve on the Youth Advisory Board for Vote 16, and I'm also the Executive Director of Vote 16 Illinois. The other organizations I work with are mainly community organizations here in Chicago, so organizations like Aegis Harvest, One North Side, and then also Mikvah Challenge in the city.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alik Schier. I'm 18, and I'm a high school senior in Washington, D.C. I help lead the campaign in DC to get a bill passed in our local DC council, as well as sitting on the Youth Advisory Board. I also do a bunch of work with local progressive organizations in the city to help elect progressive members to local boards like our city council and the mayor's office, as well as push for progressive initiatives inside of the city.
And I'm Noah Cassis. I am 17 years old. I'm a high school junior in Northampton, Massachusetts, on the western side of the state. And I am, as everybody else is, a member of the Youth Advisory Board for Vote 16, as well as an organizer with Sunrise Western Massachusetts, and the chair of the Northampton Youth Commission, which is how I first got involved with Vote 16.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everybody. So lowering the voting age to 16 to a lot of folks is a new idea. And I want to start off by giving you all a chance to share a little bit more on why you believe in lowering the voting age to 16, what positive difference that policy change will make, and then to share a little bit on how lowering the voting age and advocacy you're doing to work on that, how that intersects with the fight for climate action that a lot of you are involved in as well.
Sure. Well, I'll start off with there's a lot of reasons why lowering the voting age on state and local level in a sense. I'll start with kind of the numbers or the age-based reasons, which is that when we start voting at 18, like we do in America, 18 is a time of our lives where people are going through a lot of change. People are often moving out of their hometowns, starting college or starting a job or joining the military. And that means that your first vote comes at a time when that's not likely to be something that you're focusing on. Not only that, but you're also not likely to be voting for the first time in the place where your ballot is from. So a lot of people will do absentee ballots for their hometown while they're at college, which ends up basically meaning that people starting to vote at 18 are less likely to vote. They're less likely to vote with kind of the knowledge of their local elections that they might if they were still in their local towns. And also they're just less likely to continue voting, which we see by like kind of the sad voting rates in the whole kind of 18 to 29-year-old range. So Vote 16 does a lot of things to fix some of these issues. The first of which is that Vote 16 is dedicated. It's supposed to be partnered with a strong civics education in high school. And so the idea is that when you're able to start voting at 16 and you also learn about what voting means, what your civic obligations are in high school, you actually are much, much more likely to vote, and you're much, much more likely to continue voting. And this can be seen through the data from places that have done stuff like this, including various cities in America and Austria. And that's one of the big reasons. And then the other big reason is that actually when you start voting in high school, you're still living with your parents, and your parents are more likely to start to vote. And your parents are also more likely to be informed about what they're voting for.
Awesome. Thanks so much. Anyone else want to jump in with their view on why we believe in lowering the voting age and how that connects to climate action? Caleb,
I can hop in for a second. Yeah, so as Noah said, we want to also partner this with civic education. And so what we work on in Illinois is that we already have a mandated civic education curriculum for our high schoolers, for our juniors. And so we're trying to use that as a gateway to first make sure that our young people are civically engaged, but also let our elected officials know that we know what's going on in our towns, in our cities, and so we should have a right to vote. And when it comes to the climate movement, there were a lot of down ballot positions, at least in my state, that work specifically to make sure that we have consistent access to our natural resources. There's the water reclamation districts, which make sure that we keep Lake Michigan and our rivers clean and safe, and those are elected. And so I think that, you know, our young people should have a voice in those kinds of positions, because those are the kinds of things that we're going to be needing and our children are going to be needing. And, you know, we also need to consistently have a voice on how our climate is run, because we're going to be the ones that, you know, take the brunt of what climate change is doing to our world right now. So we need to be the ones that have a voice in how we can start preventing that.
Yeah, I also wanted to add that right now, young people, especially those involved in the climate movement who are 15, 16, 17, right now, we don't have anything, you know, I'm obviously 18, but people who are 15, 16, or 17, they don't have anything that politicians want. Because like it or not, elected officials get elected and stay elected by votes. And if we don't have any of that, elected officials are less likely to listen to us. And so like Caleb was saying, how the climate movement and you know, the effects of that climate change is having on communities all across the country, we, you know, when we advocate for those things, we can only do so much without a vote. And so by lowering the voting age and giving a lot of young people, especially young people who are really passionate about the issue of climate change, the right to vote, we can almost guarantee a better response from elected officials across the country in making sure that we are heard and that the you know, progressive policies we're all pushing actually then are considered and passed.
I would just add in there, I think that not only, you know, connecting to what I had said at the beginning, not only then are elected officials more accountable because they have to answer to the votes of 16 and 17-year-olds, you know, if we start voting at 16, we're more likely to vote when we're 18, 19, 20, 21. And then the whole youth voting bloc becomes substantially more powerful overall.
Yeah, and I just say, going off of what Noah and Alex said, it's not a coincidence that youth organizers are the ones who are out there most of the time making change and kind of leading progressive movements these days. And like Alex said, it's really important that when we're putting in that work, because we care so much about these issues that are going to affect the rest of our lives, we deserve to have our voice heard as constituents and have politicians take our voices seriously, because they do need those votes to stay in office, and they see us out organizing, they see us caring about these issues, but when we're able to go to the ballot, we're able to use our voice in a completely different way.
Awesome. I also wanted to ask, you know, going beyond climate, are there other issues in your guys' experience that Vote 16 intersects with? And as you have led campaigns in your cities and in your states to bring Vote 16 into the mainstream conversation and to, you know, bring it closer to becoming a reality, what sort of has your experience been like with the unique lens that young people bring to that advocacy, and how have politicians or other folks reacted to you all as youth advocates, in particular, advocating for an issue that's designed to empower young people?
Well, I would say to the first part of your question, I mean, I think Vote 16 kind of intersects with any issue that is important to young people, which are so many issues. And the way that the youth lens is kind of specific, gets a specific, a new look when we're talking about Vote 16 is because, we have some fundamentally different, not only 16, 17-year-olds, but also kind of the whole youth voting bloc has fundamentally different views on a lot of these issues than older voters do. And that's because we're going to be around longer to feel the brunt of the effect. That's because, we are kind of born into a moment where we can see things with a different perspective. I think specifically in my town, one thing that comes to mind is education. Last year, the teachers in my school in Massachusetts, they're not allowed to go on full strike, but they went on work to rule, which is a kind of a form of strike because they were being paid abysmally in my district. And youth and young people, specifically 16 and 17-year-olds, were some of the biggest advocates on the sides of teachers. So we showed up at the picket line, we showed up at the school committee meetings, and yet we don't have no vote in electing the school committee members, right? So that's the kind of thing that it seems kind of common sense that that young people should at least have a vote in the things that directly affect them, their education, and their teachers. Yeah.
One thing that I've seen when I have talked with a lot of people is one of the common pushbacks that I hear from some people are, okay, well, we allow 16, 17-year-olds to vote. All they're going to do is push their own agenda. They're going to only vote on issues that they care about. And sometimes when I hear people say this, I say, okay, well, then what are the issues that you care about, that you think older people care about? And it's issues that young people deal with every day. And it's those issues of housing affordability, the issue of access to affordable and adequate healthcare, whether or not we have to work multiple jobs just to keep a roof over our heads, making sure that we have access to higher education if we want it. These are all issues that I hear people who are not 16 or 17 advocating for, and yet 16 and 17-year-olds also care about that. And so I think there's like a common misconception that there are a select few issues that are directly, interested in, that 16 and 17-year-olds are directly interested in getting done, when those issues intersect, they're multi-generational and accessible to a lot of people.
Yeah, when I talk to people across my city and across my state about this issue, I always ask them what issues matter to you. And so I get a range of responses, and you can really tie lowering the voting age into any of these because of how, as Alex said, how multifaceted, multi-generational all of these problems are. I know a lot of people that, work after school jobs to help support their families, and so they also care about the minimum wage and theoretically raising it. And so I also know a lot of people that care about their education, and I talk to them about how our friends in the Bay Area have started to work to lower the voting age for school board elections. And there are just a host of issues, again, where lowering the voting age would allow young people to actually be able to take a stand on how to improve their own lives and their families' lives.
Awesome. Thanks so much, everyone. So we've heard some, really compelling perspectives on how lowering the voting age can strengthen our democracy, how it allows young people to begin voting at an age when they're best positioned to establish the habit and become long-term, lifelong voters. And we've heard great stuff about the issues that this intersects with and your experiences advocating in your communities. Before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask for those who are listening, how can people stay informed on Vote 16? How can people potentially get involved? Catie, do you want to share a little bit on how people can stay informed and get involved?
Sure. So there are a couple ways. One of the easiest is to follow Vote 16 USA on our social media to track campaign's progress. We're especially expecting some really great progress in the coming year from the San Francisco and Oakland chapters, which expect to make really huge strides and change a lot in the coming year, and we'd love for you to follow that. We also have our website, vote16usa.org. And if you want to get involved, you can click Take Action. And we'd love to hear from you. You can start a chapter in your area. You can get involved with a chapter near you. And in terms of more immediate action, we're running a contest right now in Vote 16 where you express why you think the voting age should be lowered to 16 in some artistic form. It's pretty flexible. It can be anywhere from like an art piece to a TikTok, and we'd love to see what you're thinking on this issue and how you want to express what motivates you to advocate for lowering the voting age.
All right. Thank you so much, everybody.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Earth Day Live, for having us.
Earth Day Live.